Hi, I'm Kim with Roger's Daughter Reads, and I'm here to do my April wrap-up. And boy, am I excited to talk about the books I read in April. I read 6 books, and the first one was called Ward D. This one is by Frida McFadden. I think everyone nowadays knows about Frida McFadden. One thing I didn't know is that she is on Kindle Unlimited, which is awesome. She has a huge catalog of books. I had no idea. I did not hear about her until I read The Housemaid, until the hype started about that book. This is only the second book, or at the time was only the second book by Frida McFadden I had read. This one is about a medical student, Amy Brenner. She is doing her different rotations of different areas of medicine, and now it's time for her to do mental health. So she has to stay overnight at a locked psychiatric facility, and she does not want to go. She would rather do literally anything than go stay the night on this unit. And you won't guess, if you're like me, you will not guess the reason why. You'll have many different theories as to why, but you won't really guess. And then when you think you figured it out, you realize that you haven't actually figured it out. Yeah.
Let's see, what else?
So 3 stars for me is a solid rating. It means I'm going to continue probably with that author. It kept me entertained. However, this would have been a 4-star if there wasn't unreliable narration. When the narrator is unreliable, it just personally bothers me. I want to know what's real and what's not in a book. That's just not the trope for me. The thing that saves this book is it's not completely unreliable, and she herself doesn't know, which is a scary thought. If you think you're sane but you might not be, there's evidence for both outcomes. It would be scary, and so you go through those feelings with Amy. This also has some slasher vibes. There's some blood spilled, chaos ensues. I think you'll like this one. I absolutely recommend it. Okay, the second book I read in April, I should completely have DNF'd. If it wasn't for the fact that it was read by audiobook, I never would have gotten through it. I'm talking about Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. It looked on my note here that I had written Boris, but it's Bonnie Garmis. This is about a chemist, a female chemist in the 1960s. Admittedly, that would be rough, right? That would be hard to be a scientist in the 60s. Her name is Elizabeth Zott. She finds herself trying to make it in the 1960s, not only as a scientist, but as an unmarried mother, a single mother. She has to deal with sexism. You know, that was just something that women had to deal with back then. This was so boring. I think the author was trying to dismantle all of these ideas like marriage and family values, and try to really question why we need those things, and oh, how silly was the 1960s when we had these morals and these norms, and I just didn't get along with it. The ideology here, I don't jive with, but even more than that, if you entertain me, I will jive with you. I will listen. This book bored me so very much. I just listened to get through it. It was awful. There were a lot of points that didn't make sense. There were a lot of things about rowing. The rowing stuff, I didn't know a lot about rowing. That was interesting to me. I liked the dog. I would never recommend this to anybody. It looks really cute. I would just look at this cover. That's cute. It's a snooze fest. I will never get that time back. Okay? Moving on to something I loved, The Inmate by Frida McFadden. I gave it 4 stars. Frida McFadden is just, she's wonderful. This one is about Brooke Sullivan. She's a nurse practitioner, and she's just started working at a maximum security prison for men. Sign me up. I am so interested in corrections and law and forensics. Huge fan. So excited to get into this. And it did not disappoint. Brooke, she's given some advice that I'm telling you I would take, right? And you know she should, but then you're watching her not take that advice. One thing, don't be getting too friendly with these men, right? They do not have your best interests in mind. Do not tell them personal details about yourself. So we watch as she does not follow this advice. She's a caring person, she's a talkative person. They're human beings, she's a human being. She treats them with kindness and respect, but she is naive and she doesn't realize, like these other people at the prison that have been doing this for a long time, she doesn't quite understand why. She hasn't been burned by this yet. So she doesn't really listen. She lives her life. She tries to work at this prison. It's incredibly hard work.
Even though it seems like it wouldn't be, like you get to work with one person at a time in a calm, quiet environment. You got your little office. It seems fine, right?
But it's complicated. To make matters worse, she has a relationship with a prisoner. His name is Shane Nelson. Not only does she have a connection, it's not the neighbor of a neighbor's friend's uncle. No, this is her high school sweetheart. Yeah. There's a whole other part of this, and like an 80s Fright Night slasher film going on in this dual timeline situation. You're back in her world when she was a teenager living through this terrible night. You're trying to understand this mystery and figure all of this out and figure out who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. And again, with Frida McFadden, you don't know to the end. There are ancillary different bad people that you have no idea about. They're just popping out of nowhere. It was wonderful. I loved it. Read it. It's a few days later. I don't know what happened. I was all gung-ho the other day to finish the wrap-up, and then I ate, got a full belly, and was just done. Done with everything productive. Anyway, but we're back. Oh, I forgot my coffee. So the next book that I read is a chunker, A Court of Thorns and Roses, by Sarah J. Maas. This came out in 2015 and I read it then, and I'm 3 or 4 books into the series. It's just spicy. This first book so far is my favorite. The spice is low, and for a first book in a fantasy series, the world building is seamless. It's not intense. There's not a whole lot to remember and think about and juggle in your head, and you're not confused for a very long time trying to keep up with everybody. So this was touted, and still is, as a Beauty and the Beast retelling. We have Feyre, I think her last name is Archeron. She's destitute. Her family was wealthy. Some things have happened. They are not now. She is basically the sole provider for her dad, herself, her 2 sisters.
Come on. Use your steps.
She's out in the woods, and I don't want to go too far. I don't remember what the blurb says. Let's just say she gets in trouble. A lot of you have read this, but she gets in trouble with the fairies. Humans and fairies live together in this world, but there's a dividing line. Fairies are not allowed to go into the human world and vice versa. But she has broken a rule, and now a fairy from Prythian, in particular from the Spring Court, is here to take her back to live. We meet the High Lord, the High Prince. So at this gorgeous court, the Spring Court, it is always spring. And one thing I loved about reading this in the spring was how gorgeous it is outside right now, and warm but not too hot. There's a breeze going through. I just remember reading this and feeling like I was at the spring court. And the way she describes spring, some of the most glorious writing. You can feel yourself there. Glittering water, sunlight dappled meadows, the soft grass, the smells, so many different gorgeous colorful flowers, and the smells, those floral smells that are on the breeze, the warm breeze. It just immerses you in that court. And I guess she wants you to really feel like this is the best place Feyre could be, because she doesn't stay in the spring court, right? She goes other places, but to my mind, there's nowhere more glorious that she could be than the spring court. She's there initially with Lucien, who she kind of has a battle of wills with. Not really a battle of wills, but they're against each other. He's very much upset about what she did and is cold to her, but also just a smart aleck. The sarcasm is constant. They're going at each other back and forth all the time. But then you have Tamlin, and he's this gorgeous, blonde, tan, wonderful looking man. He's what you would imagine that a fairy king or a high lord would be. He's got an insane amount of magic, and they're drawn to each other. There's something about the relationship that isn't revealed till the very end. There's a curse, so it very much is like Beauty and the Beast, but it's also quite different, so you really don't know exactly what's going on, even though you think you do. It is not very spicy, thank goodness. You know that things are happening, but you don't have to hear about it. So this one I gave 5 stars. I love this book. I'm waiting to go into the next one again for a reread. This is one that you can savor. You can take a long time with it, read it slowly. It really is a pleasure to read. Sarah J. Maas is a master of her craft. I really don't like how spicy these became. There was no need for it. Her writing is so beautiful and rich and immersive. So that kind of takes the innocence out of it, the enjoyment out of it for me, so I'm not really looking forward to getting into the rest of the series. We have met Rysand at this point when they go under the mountain. I would have thought that I would have hated this part of the book, but I really didn't. She goes from being in this glorious, heavenly, lush spring court to living in a dungeon under the mountain, right? So how different could one environment be from the other? However, it's not bad. I mean, it's terrible. You'd hate to be her, but it's interesting nonetheless. We've met Rysand. He's someone you really do not like. At first, you have no idea what their real relationship is. You have no idea what it's going to be. You just know that she ends up having to make a deal with the devil. 5 stars. Absolutely highly recommend. All right, this is the 5th book I read in April. I listened to this one on audiobook. I found it on Everand, which is what they used to be Scribd. I recently tried it again, another trial, because it has been maybe a year or two. This one is Blackout: How Black America Can Make Its Second Escape from the Democrat Plantation. So this is by Candace Owens. Some of you may be familiar with her. She is a conservative. She used to be a liberal, and this is just her story of going to there. She says being raised in the projects and then coming to the realization she's at now. And I asked my husband, I said, how do I present this to people who don't know her, don't love her, just know nothing about her? And he said, just say the book is politically intriguing.
I laughed. I thought that was so cute.
Politically intriguing. This is intriguing. I'm just going to read some of the blurb here. Political activist and social media star Candace Owens explains all the reasons how the Democrat Party policies hurt rather than help the African American community, and why she and many others are turning right. Weaving in her personal story that brought her from the projects to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, she demonstrates how she overcame her setbacks and challenges despite the cultural expectation that she should embrace a victim mentality. Well-researched and intelligently argued, Blackout lays bare the myth that all Black people should vote Democrat, and shows why turning to the right will leave them happier, more successful, and more self-sufficient. She is just such an inspiring person. She's very much into America first and her faith. Number one is her faith. So women like that who are strong in their faith and traditional, high morals, I am so inspired by them. I'm very much inspired by her. She's so intelligent, so thoughtful, so well educated, and she is not the person that's going to go in the direction of everyone else. She's going to stop, she's going to think, and make a critical decision. And the majority of us don't do that. We see what everyone else is doing and we get this herd mentality. Oh, everyone hates this person, so I'm going to hate them too. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to do what the media tells me to do. I think it's changing slowly, but I think that's where we're at right now, even though the tide is turning. But she's definitely one of those inspiring women that even if you're not even like a political person, you can watch her life, listen to her speak, and really just get inspired to be better. She's one of those people that makes me as a person want to be better. So the foreword here is by Larry Elder. I love Larry Elder. He is so funny. He is so articulate and blunt, and I love that. Okay, the last book I read in April was The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. Yes, the third Frida McFadden that I read in April. Wow. Thanks, Kindle Unlimited. In The Housemaid's Secret, we are following housemaid Millie. She is living in a really bad area of the Bronx where she's not very safe. Bad things are happening to her in her apartment and on her way home, and it's just, she's dealing with her past, just like in the first book. Wasn't that about Millie too? Yeah. And she thinks she gets this wonderful, another once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with this extremely wealthy family, but she only ever meets the husband. The wife, she suspects something terrible is happening to his wife. It is trouble from the first few pages to the end for Millie. There were times reading this, I would have gotten finished with this sooner, but I had to stop reading and just move on to a different book because I just wasn't ready. This is one of those books where the protagonist has the most trouble you can imagine, and it just troubles you. It's just troubling all around, and you just have to get away. So I can only take so much of it. It was really good and intriguing, and I wanted to know, but Millie got into so much trouble that I didn't think she could get out of, and I was so mad about the circumstances that she was in and the people that were doing things to her that I just had to take a break.
I gotta turn the salmon, hold on.
Was that not recording? The salmon is turned. I think I was finished talking about The Housemaid's Secret. I recommend it, 4 stars. Not a big chunk of April was wasted. It wasn't wasted, but you know, a few reading nights were spent with Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. This is like maybe like a 400-page book, and I've got maybe like 25 pages left. So I'll end up finishing that in May. I just am so over it, but obviously I'm too close to the end to DNF, so. This really should have been on the April wrap up, but I did not plan correctly and I just couldn't push through. But thank you for joining me, and I hope you had an excellent reading month. Did you read 3 Frida McFadden books too? That would be a crazy coinkydink. Let me know. I don't know if I'll be doing a May TBR. I mean, we'll see. I probably need to go back to doing, or I need to prioritize maybe January, February, and March wrap-ups. So we'll see. I may do that. It's not too late, right? Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, and that you're excited about reading or whatever it is that you like to do that gives you peace. I will see you hopefully very soon. God bless. Bye.